I didn't realize I was documenting my transformation. I thought I was just taking pictures. I like taking pictures. A lot of people do. And I didn't really think about the why until more recently. So I've always taken photos of my flowers, my food, my family, my trips, my dogs. You know, you take all these kinds of pictures, but in a world now where everything's digital, they usually just kind of sit in your cloud and your storage on your phone, wherever that is. You know, we're no longer in this habit of actually going to CVS and putting in your little SD card and printing out all your pictures and putting them in an album. We're more portable these days. You can take your phone and you can scroll back and see pictures that you took last week, last month, last year. And it's really awesome to be able to, at an instant, go back and see those things. But the real question is not, oh, let's look at these pictures. It's what made me take the picture in the first place? And I started to realize the food, the trips, the everything, it was me trying to save a moment, trying to capture something that I could go back to and look at and fondly remember whatever was happening at that time. It's been a visual trail of breadcrumbs that's led me from who I was to who I'm becoming. So now the photos look a little bit different. And if you're anything like me, you've got those photos where you're like, ugh, I hate how I look. I'm slouched. That outfit's not flattering. Hey, can you just crop it up to here so nobody has to see, all that nonsense at the bottom? Instead, it started becoming more about the moment. Here's a picture from a trip I went on. And I remember how much fun I had and what a great time it was. Instead of focusing on the fact that I feel like I look like I'd been stung by a million bees right in my midsection, all puffed up and ballooned out. And old Amy would look at that picture and say, ugh, I hate that picture. I don't look good. It's not flattering. It's this and that. Hyper focusing on the least important part of the picture and not realizing that the picture wasn't about what shape I was at that particular time. It was about the moment I was living at that time. So now I'm going back and looking at pictures and I'm remembering. I'm not just seeing a snapshot of time. I'm remembering the unfolding of the entire day, the entire event. I'm re-feeling those feelings. And it's weird. It's weird to look at pictures without that self-critical lens that so many of us put on everything, and to just step back into time for a moment and enjoy whatever it was that was happening. Pictures also become mirrors. They become proof. Anyone who's ever started any kind of diet or exercise plan after, of course, consulting a doctor and yada, yada, one thing that's very consistent across all the plans, they say, day one, weigh yourself, take your pictures, do your measurements. This is how you're going to track progress. And in my becoming, it's kind of the same. I'm looking back at old pictures of myself and seeing who I was at that time. And then looking at my life now, looking at pictures from yesterday and saying, wow, look how far I've come. Look how much I've evolved, not changed, but evolved into the person I'm supposed to be. And I have a visual trail that tells the whole story. So when you make your New Year's resolutions and you take your pictures, and then 2 weeks later, you're supposed to take them again and check the progress. And that's usually when I fall off the bandwagon because I can't see enough progress. And why am I starving myself and doing all this exercise, and I've only lost 0.3 pounds in 2 weeks and my body looks exactly the same? But there's a logic, there's a method. Things take time. And you need to kind of document along the way so that you can see the progress once you're far enough along to have actually made noticeable changes. So that's kind of what this is. It's a living, breathing, real-time documentary of me becoming this other part of myself that's been waiting for me to wake my ass up for years and finally do what feels right. It's a way of kind of just witnessing, kind of like watching a movie. And that's the funny part. I love telling stories. I love having my picture taken, but only when I feel like I look just right. But now, the picture's not about how I look, it's about how I felt in that moment. And while I was having all these epiphanies, I started to really understand that there's something much more inherent in what a picture tells us than just whatever the image is. So now, like most people, I'm looking back and I'm kind of reflecting a little bit and thinking, okay, so you took a bunch of pictures and now you look at them and your perception's a little different. You're not honing in on all the imperfections. You're enjoying the memories. You're enjoying the moments. So let's talk about why we do that. Again, it's not about collecting photos. It's not about having a bunch of pictures on my phone that literally take up probably half of my storage space. It's about collecting evidence that you can reflect back on at a later time, whether it's tomorrow, next week, next year, and you can remember who you were at that time, in that moment, what was shaping you when you decided to take that picture. And instead of remembering, you start recognizing, you start finding these little things that were always there, but you didn't see them because you were too hyper focused on something else, something that probably wasn't even important. So I'm taking these pictures and now I'm going back to them and they're hitting me in a different way. So let's zoom out for a minute. Taking pictures wasn't just a habit. It ended up being a map. It was something that I could unfold, and as I scrolled through the pictures, I could see the shifts. I could feel the moments that were changing. I could see the rituals taking shape, and my true identity was returning. And it's just so fascinating when you look at it from that angle, instead of being the person that picks apart every flaw and nuance. You look at the picture like you're someone who doesn't know who you are, and you're just seeing what is actually there. A person in a moment, living their life and having a good time. And it's freeing. And I know I've said that a lot, but you really just can't understand how much you need to be yourself until you realize that you've been the wrong version of yourself for such a long time, if that makes sense. So the other day, as this whole unfolding is happening, right? This whole becoming is happening, I had an idea, and I thought, in these episodes where I'm talking about myself and I'm talking about my growth and my change and my evolution into this new phase of my life, I thought, well, why don't I have the pictures, the memories that go along with it that can supplement what I'm saying, what I'm telling, what the story that's coming out of my mouth. And so there were pictures that popped up in my mind as I was mentally crafting and curating what this season, what this episode was going to look like. And so I went on Facebook because that happens to be where most of my pictures had ended up. And it was a nice little repository that I could go back to. And as I started scrolling through the pictures, looking for the exact ones that had come to mind when I was drafting the episode and thinking about what I wanted to talk about, I caught myself smiling. Because as I was scrolling through, I got to see moments of my life that I really wanted to remember. I needed to remember because they were moments that reminded me of who I was and who I'm turning back into. Not a new person, but being true to the person I've always been. And it was like when I was a kid, we had those little window things, right? And I'm not going to say it right. And it's going to drive me crazy. And I'll probably mention it in a different episode when it finally registers. But you put in the little card and you click the button and it's, kind of switches to the next picture and the next picture. And somebody's going to comment on this episode and tell me what it is. And then I'm going to be like, duh, of course that's what it is. I digress. So going through all these old photos on Facebook was me having an opportunity to see and relive some of these moments. It was me being able to reconnect with people that I don't have with me anymore. It reminded me of the way that they shaped my life and who they were and why I'm doing all of this. And it was the first time that I was scrolling through pictures like watching a movie instead of hyper criticizing every single thing in the picture. The angle wasn't right. My chin is too big and my eye is half closed and all those kind of weird things that we hone in on. I wasn't doing any of that. I was just enjoying living in the moment and the memories that made me who I am. So here we are, partway through a podcast, and I still have no idea what I'm doing. But this is Gertrude. She will be joining us in future episodes as well. So, I'm kind of just starting to put all the pieces together. I had that notice something's different, something's changing. Then I had the awakening, I understand now what I'm supposed to be doing. And then I made the rituals to sustain the life that I want to have. And now I get to sit and remember and have joy and all of the things that really just made my life what it is up till this moment. And now I have the evidence. I can go back to those pictures. I can go back to those moments and I can remember what it was like to be that version of myself. And instead of looking at the versions that I think I didn't like, I look at them with a little more softness, a little more acceptance and caring. Because if I was never the person I was on that day, I wouldn't be the person I am on this day. So let me leave you with a little something before we sign off for today and jump into episode 6. Sometimes the proof comes before the belief. You see the evolution of what's been happening before your brain catches up and says, wow, I was on a journey of becoming my true self. The story continues in the next episode.